Hey friends, Pastor Bill Walden here with Build Up the Church. God bless you. This is a devotional word for March the 7th, 2024. And this is out of the Gospel of Mark, chapter 12, starting at verse 1. Jesus tells a parable to these religious leaders. And you know, the parable is so obvious and so evident. And at the end of this little section, we're going to see that they totally understood that he was warning them and talking to them. And they understood that they were guilty and that they still did not want to surrender to him. And it just shows you in my opinion, the stubbornness of man, the pride of man to have his own way. Let me read you the story. Then he began to speak to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard and set a hedge around it, dug a place for the wine vat, and then he built a tower. And he leased it to vine dressers, and he went into a far country. Now at vintage time, he sent a servant to the vine dressers that he might receive some of the fruit of the vineyard from the vine dressers. And they took him and beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Again he sent to them another servant, and at him they threw stones, wounded him in the head, and sent him away shamefully treated. And again he sent another, and him they killed, and many others, beating some and killing some. Jesus is telling a story, and he is saying that the vineyard represents Israel, and that was imagery that was used in the Old Testament about the nation of Israel. And the very nature of a vineyard is that it should produce fruit, it should produce grapes, and so that the owner can be blessed and enriched by the fruit that comes forth from that which belongs to him and from that to which he gave life. And these servants that the vineyard owner sends in the parable, those are the Old Testament prophets. And the Old Testament clearly says that the nation of Israel time and time again rejected the prophets. They beat them, some they killed, and they just did not want to surrender. And so these religious leaders here know exactly what Jesus is talking about. He's speaking in a parable, but it's really clear to them, as we're going to see. Verse 6 says, "Therefore, still having one son, his beloved, he also sent him to them at last, saying, 'They will respect my son.'" Now this is speaking of God the Father sending God the Son, Jesus Christ, to the vineyard, to the nation of Israel. And in the parable, the owner thinks, well, they've done some bad things, but they certainly will respect my son. They've done horrible things, but they're not going to go that far to disrespect my son. But those vine dressers, verse 7, said among themselves, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they took him and killed him and cast him out of the vineyard. Jesus here in actuality is prophesying of his own death, which would happen in just a few days. "Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do?" Now, in the parable, it's obvious. He's going to come and he's going to do some serious business against those who beat and killed his servants and killed his son, and were not faithful with what God had, or what the vineyard owner had given them, and they wanted to keep it for themselves. And it's obvious that they were in the parable. It's obvious that they were wrong, and so Jesus is asking them in the parable, "What do you think? I mean, should they be rewarded? Certainly not. They should be judged." "Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the vine dressers and give the vineyard to others. Have you not even read this scripture? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." The vineyard being given to others speaks about how God, for a long season now, has dealt more directly with the Gentile population of the earth than with Israel. Israel is not cast away. They're not cast off. There are Jews who come to a saving knowledge of Jesus. But by and large, the gospel has gone out into the world, into the Gentile nations. And then Jesus asked these religious leaders, "Don't you even know your own Bible?" I mean, this was, it wasn't mean-spirited, but it was definitely up in their face, very challenging. "The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone." In ancient days, there would be a main cornerstone, a large stone usually, often with an insignia, and that would be set in place. And from that cornerstone The walls would be built to the left. The walls would be built to the right. The walls would go up vertically. It was the measuring stone. It was the foundation stone. It was the first stone. It was the principal stone in any building. And the scriptures in the Old Testament said that the builders had rejected the chief cornerstone, and it was a prophecy of the nation of Israel rejecting Jesus. He was their Messiah, but they rejected him. The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. So they know what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about. Everybody knows what Jesus is saying. It's obvious. It's clear. There's no doubt about it. But listen to their response. And they sought to lay hands on him, but feared the multitude. For they knew he had spoken the parable against them, so they left him and went away. They wanted to lay hands on him right there and probably take him to try to kill him on the spot. He wouldn't be executed until the Passover, which is another prophetic fulfillment. But they were ready to kill him right there. But they had such a respect of people's opinions. They wanted to look good in the eyes of people, and so they didn't do it. They feared the multitude. They didn't want to look like the bad guys. And so when they finally do it, it's all going to be at night. It's going to be secretive. And they will be successful according to the scriptures. But it just is amazing to me. They knew he had spoken the parable against them. Let me try to make an application to us. Listen, if God's speaking from his word and you believe he's speaking directly to you, you need to heed his word. I need to heed his word. God will not be mocked. He loves humanity. He loves all of humanity, but he will not be mocked. And when he speaks a word to us, a word of direction, a word of correction, we need to listen. And that's what these guys would not do, even in the face of the obvious. Such that their hearts were so stubborn and their hearts were so full of pride. So for you and me, let's not let our hearts get that way. If you've never said yes to Jesus yet, I hope your heart isn't that way. And that you would be able to read the Bible or hear the Bible and know that God is inviting you into a relationship with him. So thanks for watching. God bless you. Bye-bye.